Hello there, Commonwealth from The Wind Waker is coming to Nintendo Music. Likely it has nothing to do with anything. But what if The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker is planned for the Switch, most likely in its HD form, while Twilight Princess is not, and instead saved for the successor in 4K? That is right, Nintendo might split up the Wii U Duo across 2 systems, so be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell. Fans have been eager for an answer of these iconic titles since the last Zelda remaster, Skyward Sword HD, dropped back in 2021 for that game's 10th anniversary. Now with Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition on the Switch and launching March 20th, 2025, Nintendo seems to keep its options open, meaning that Wind Waker HD as the next edition on the Switch may be less far-fetched than we thought. Each of these 2 Zelda titles embodies a unique aspect of the series. Wind Waker offers a vibrant, stylized world with a cel-shaded art style that brings fans an island-hopping, seafaring adventure. Twilight Princess, on the other hand, dives into the darker, mysterious side of the land of Hyrule, naturally with a more realistic art style included. Though both of them are rather dark in their themes, as they create a perfect GameCube and Wii U yin and yang balance, delivering 2 halves of Zelda's storytelling, timeline, and art style spectrum. Though we have discussed the possibility of a bundle at length before, as such combo is not in Nintendo's economic interest. Since for them, these GameCube and Wii U classics are much like in the case of Metroid Prime and Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, 2 separate GameCube to Switch remaster releases. But is corporate in Kyoto about to split up these 2 iconic titles like the Triforce itself? It is an interesting option that not many have thought of, splitting the GameCube and Wii U Zelda too. After all, they are in each branch of the split timeline after Ocarina of Time. Nintendo could use one for the massive 150 million Nintendo Switch install base, and the other to showcase the graphical power of its successor. The Wind Waker HD is perfect for the Switch. It is a game that aged like fine wine with its clean, cartoony, timeless visuals. Twilight Princess HD, however, with its more realistic but also darker and murkier textures, could benefit greatly from a 4K release on the next-gen system, all to maintain its epic status. And this brings us to the Wii U's 2011 Zelda tech demo, as this one presented a more advanced cinematic art style and gave us a glimpse of what Twilight Princess could look like with an enhanced visual upgrade. And maybe also provide some alterations, a reimagined Armagome boss fight, to replace one of the less memorable battles in the original. It is a possibility worth considering. All part of a gradual release which could see the Wind Waker HD at $60 as the Zelda release for the Switch in 2025, followed by the launch of the Switch successor with Breath of the Wild in 4K, most likely at $70 just a few months later. Then, by 2026, if Ocarina of Time 4K isn't in the cards yet, Twilight Princess could hit its 20th anniversary milestone with a 4K release, ideally aligning with Zelda's 40th anniversary at a $60 or $70 price point, all depending on what Nintendo will end up with for the new system. With this strategy, Nintendo could maintain steady Zelda releases across consoles. 2025 could see a dual release for Switch and the Switch successor, with Wind Waker HD for the current system and Breath of the Wild 4K for the new. More so, with backwards compatibility, the Wind Waker HD would still be playable on the new system, allowing players to keep everything Zelda in one place. The Switch successor long into the 2030s. Now, before we move on, let's give a brief insight why Nintendo would go for a Breath of the Wild 4K remaster instead of Twilight Princess 4K as part of the 2025 launch of the next system. For a while, we've known of a certain codename, U-King-O, and its connection to the codename of Breath of the Wild. Allegedly, it is Nintendo's big Zelda 4K 2025 move. On the surface, bringing back Breath of the Wild in 4K seems like a solid move. It's been over 8 years since the original took the world by storm in 2017, including by winning Game of the Year at the Game Awards. Not only is Breath of the Wild the best-selling Zelda game, but it is also the 4th best-selling game on the Switch. A return in 4K would be a tempting release, especially since we have never had a complete edition with all paid DLC packs included. It goes without saying, in sales numbers, Breath of the Wild is far more popular than both The Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, which in its HD version struggled to sell back in 2016. And Nintendo needs such a big hit, so maybe Wind Waker and Twilight Princess on the current Switch could be a huge strategic advantage, potentially boosting system sales to its final heights, since the Nintendo Switch is surpassing 150 million units. It still has a little bit left to go to the record-breaking DS and the PlayStation 2, but it is getting there. Given the legacy of both Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, reintroducing these titles not only attract dedicated Zelda fans, but also appeal to casual gamers and new Switch owners, though they are what will get in more Switch owners in early 2025. That mission is tied to Pokemon Legends ZA, though there's a different boss in the way for Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, since their HD versions released on the Wii U in 2013 and 2016 and, well, exist. Unlike any other remaster or even Wii U to Switch port, they aren't the original games, but remakes/remasters of the GameCube classics if they would be on the Switch. The brand new games were released over or close to 2 decades ago, with Wind Waker debuting in Japan in 2002 and Twilight Princess in 2006. A remastered dual release for these titles on the current Switch could satisfy a massive audience, but some fans, including myself, wonder if it isn't better to go for a full 4K upgrade on a more powerful system. With Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition showing that surprise releases aren't off the table, perhaps at least Wind Waker HD on the Switch is more likely than we thought. Releasing this one on the Switch would also allow Nintendo to capitalize on the nostalgia factor. Zelda fans have shown time and time again that they're eager to replay classics, especially if they come with quality of life improvements. We saw this in 2019 with Link's Awakening and 2021 with Skyward Sword HD. For Nintendo, this represents a unique chance to maintain the Switch's momentum while simultaneously creating a bridge to the next console. If handled right, this approach could maintain fan engagement as we transition into a new era of Zelda releases and Nintendo hardware. Though one more factor to consider is time, especially with Ocarina of Time 4K rumored for 2026. That is unless this spot is made for the 20th anniversary of the original game and, well, the 40th anniversary of the Zelda franchise. Yes, a plot twist. If Wind Waker arrives on the Switch, it will be targeted towards the Zelda fans who skipped Echoes, but are still eager for more 3D Zelda content since finishing Tears of the Kingdom. Alternatively, and more likely in Twilight Princess's case though, the game might be held back for an upscale release on the new hardware. A system where the fan-favorite worlds of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess could be explored in stunning, upscaled 4K, with the next top-down Zelda likely in development for around 2027, and a new open-air Zelda tentatively lined up for say 2029, these potential remasters with a proper Ocarina of Time 4K remake could fit perfectly as year-to-year fillers in the second half of the 2020s, satisfying fans while new projects are in development. If the Wind Waker HD does indeed come to the Switch first, it will be a fantastic way for fans to enjoy one of the series' brightest, most adventurous titles. Playing it on the Switch, including its music on Nintendo Music, is the perfect way to bring the GameCube classic into the modern era, while making the wait for the next-gen Zelda a bit easier. The possibility of exploring the Great Sea once again, but now on a proper portable console, or consoles, if backwards compatibility is actually the case. If Nintendo does split the two titles as we have presented, then the anticipation of Twilight Princess in 4K on the Switch 2 would certainly be a brilliant payoff. After years of fan requests, playing this darker, more epic journey on the next-gen system would be the ultimate way to experience its iconic dungeons, boss battles, and thrilling narrative. Twilight Princess has always carried a strong aura, and experiencing it with upgraded visuals and possibly refined mechanics would add a new layer of immersion, allowing fans to see Hyrule as they have never seen it before. Imagine, after all this time, getting to finally dive into the Twilight realm with next-level graphical fidelity. Looking at Nintendo's strategy, this possible split represents an exciting commitment to Zelda's future, ordering new releases and remasters to keep the series fresh, keeping us engaged as we look forward to what is next. These beloved titles could be Nintendo's way of celebrating the 40 of the franchise, while preparing us for the push to the big 50. So what do you think? should Wind Waker and Twilight Princess get a proper HD release on the Switch in 2025, or is it time for these titles to get the full 4K treatment on the next-gen hardware? We would love to hear your thoughts, so sound off in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell to make this video more visible. And a big thanks to all our patreon.com/Cameron patrons. Special shoutouts go to row producers Zach Johnson and JC Funk, and heroes Holly Wolf, Cheryl and Garrett Hall. You rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.